Let's see if we're about to go live. Josh, it says we're live, Josh. It's alive.
Alive.
Alive. Is it alive, chat? Can you tell me whether or not it's alive? Are we live? Yes, phone. I know that I need to do my podcast now. I am on it. Hello. I'm not sure if chat can hear us. Okay, let me just restart this page and hope that that fixes this issue. Because it says I'm not dropping any frames. It says we're good. Heck yeah. Alright everyone, hello and welcome to the Level With Us Livecast. I'm your host, Marco DeSantos, also known as Mechanic Critic. And with me instead of Brad is somebody equally awesome, if not more, the one, the only, God project manager of Level 99 Games himself.
Josh, also known as Ithri.
Hey,
how's it going?
Everyone. You know what? I think life's been really good. Josh, how about you?
That's fine. There's more work to do, but it's exciting work recently, so...
Right, because we've secretly created the best game in the universe, which is called...
Unannounced.
The best game in the universe.
Mm.
Right.
I mean, we've got a lot of cool things coming up that we haven't really talked about. Like, I think that's something that fans might not realize is, like, we have a lot of irons
in the fire. Right.
That we're working on one at a time, but we to do some, advanced work to get them ready to go into the fire in the first place.
Right. So
you have to make the iron to put into the fire.
Right. It's very interesting because we tend to have a lot of projects going on that people don't even know about, right?
Yeah, a lot of people said that like Bullet came up out of nowhere because it kind of did. You know, we kind of worked on it for 2 years and then we announced it. So.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not. And I think that's very interesting because a lot of people, one of the things that we've learned over the years is not to announce things until they're actually gonna be done. Like as much as it's turned into a meme now, like, you know, Seventh Cross was quote unquote a mistake, right? We announced it way too early.
Now announce it, and it's still coming.
It's still coming, but like people are still expecting it, right? So, like when people are wondering, you know, it's like, you know, why are you doing all of these projects? Where's Seventh Cross? I mean, I understand everybody's really excited for it. I am excited for it as well. It's just that it's just not ready yet. Like, you know,
it's not just that too, but like our priorities are constantly shifting, right?
Yeah.
You know, especially with a game like Exceed, where we could just, you know, an IP could land on our doorstep at any time. We have to be ready to like adjust our project schedule a bit.
Right.
And that's part of what happened with stuff. Sorry, part of it is because it's not done, but the other is because we got some exciting, cool things that we kind of need to take priority for various reasons.
Right.
So, but mostly because Seventh Cross isn't done yet.
Yeah. So yes, Seventh Cross fans, it's still happening. Just patience. I guess patience. So this is going to be a Q&A and updates episode. Mostly if you have any questions about any of our projects, what's coming up, what's happening. Yes, but where is Seventh Cross? You know, Seventh Cross is the real Seventh Cross was the friends we made along the way, if you really think about it. The real answer, though, is that it's being worked on. I don't know what else to say, though. Right? Like...
Yeah, right. I'm getting it ready to be worked on. I'm putting them together, and I'm kind of re-corralling the game from, you know, the version that was made, like, a year ago.
Right.
So, you know, I'm to use the irons in the fire analogy, I am putting the iron together. I'm forging the iron right now so that when we finish some current projects that we're on, we can put it into the fire being development, and actually get this game out. But you know, part of that is to go into a little detail for the Seventh Crossers out there waiting for it. we've said before that like the game's scope kind of got a little zany and out of control, and part of what I'm doing right now is reining that in a bit.
Right.
The current game is a little too unproducible. There's a lot of components. The components like physical shapes are very awkward to produce and whatnot. So we're trying to just first of all get it to a manageable state to even print, and then go from there. Finish up the graphic design, finish up the bits of art that are left. Do some final testing and whatnot. So it's always in the back of my mind. It's not something we've forgotten. So
Right.
it's coming. Trademark soon. Trademark.
Okay. So chat's asking some questions. Oh man, if only
Great.
we could see our friends right now, we could have 7th Cross. I don't think that's what the real 7th Cross with the friends we made along the way means. Just warning you ahead of time. When can we expect a preview of the BlazBlue Exceed cards? I really want to see the art of the cards. Do you want the real answer to this question, chat?
The real answer.
The-
So as you may imagine, BlazBlue is an IP that we don't own. It's owned by Arc System Works, and part of our agreement to make Exceed BlazBlue is that they have to approve like every single thing that we make for BlazBlue Exceed.
Right.
So that's kind of where it is right now. We haven't shown you the cards yet because they're not approved. They're mostly done. The graphic design and the art and whatnot is mostly done. We're just finishing up normals right now, and then we will give them to ArcSys, and they will hopefully approve it with no issues, and then we can start showing you some cards.
Right.
But that's kind of why you've only seen the boxes now, is because that's all that's been kind of approved currently.
Right.
So it's a bit of a longer process than Exceed Season like 7th Cross, where we have like full creative control. There's another hurdle we have to jump through for this one.
Yeah, because I guess that's one thing about working with an IP holder is that you essentially are beholden to how they want their IP to be represented, to be shown off.
Right. It's a big process. It's a lot of red tape.
It's not just red. Yeah, it's a lot of red tape, right? And there's a lot of red tape that you would never imagine actually existed, specifically for like certain things and why they have to be done that way, right? Like, so I in my old job, I used to work with DC as a license, right? And they were very, very particular about a lot of things, like, whenever you need to display Superman has to be by himself. You can't put him in with other characters from your game. And I'm like, okay.
Sure.
Right? So, ArcSys is a bit like that, right? Like, they have some things that you would never expect them that they want you to do, but they definitely want you to do it, right? Like, Ragnar the Blood Edge's name has to be spelled out this way, and this character's name can't just be the nickname. You have to put the full name, right? Like it's stuff like that, right?
Right. Characters, some character text has to be displayed certain color or certain fonts, things like that. So, it's a lot of little things, but as everything we get approved, we kind of learn what they want from us, and so things kind of pick up. The more things we get approved. So I'm expecting that the cards is kind of the last big hurdle. Once they approve the cards, I think the rest of the components, like the rulebook and stuff, will be finished up pretty quick.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'm hoping to be at press
Fingers
by the end of the month.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Oh, hi, chat. So let's see. Let's get the ball rolling. I may possibly want the art, but doubt it's approved yet. Can we say how we're doing the cards? Even if it's not approved yet?
You mean like what the art is?
Yeah. Better safe than sorry,
we
though.
could, but I'd rather leave it as a surprise.
Right.
Like, you'll probably see the cards next week.
Right.
Sometime, so, just hang on a little bit longer, and you'll see what we did with it, what we were allowed to do with it.
Right. Let's just say BlazBlue fans will find it very recognizable. How about that?
Yeah, sure. That's one way of putting it.
Don Chomp says, thank you, I'm super hyped. We are super hyped in multiple ways as well. Mr. says, hi, Mr. So people, if you have anything else to ask, about our projects, about just stuff in general, even if it's not about project updates. You just want to learn about, hey, what does X character do in Y game or whatever. It's cool. We can talk about that. Otherwise, Josh and I are just going to literally hang out for the next foreseeable, 40 minutes. 30
company hangout and talk about company things on company time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So what are you doing for today, Josh?
What did I do today?
Yeah, sorry, I forgot it's evening for you.
I had a meeting with an individual about an unannounced project, and then I adjusted some sheets from that unannounced project. Project Crane, I guess I can say that. That's been announced.
I forgot all of our Project Crane. I forgot all of our games are named after birds.
Yeah, codenamed after birds, right? So, Project Crane is what we're going to be developing after Season 5 of Exceed goes to press. So I'm kind of just dipping my toes into what Project Crane is, and kind of trying to get a handle on it, so that when we get to it, everyone knows what Project Crane is, what components we're printing, and what the scope of the project is, and where all the files are and stuff, so that people like Davey can jump in and do the graphic design really easily.
Right.
And he has all of the text available and all that. So yeah, I'm just kind of getting that in line for this week is most of what I'm doing.
Oh,
and that's what I did today. That's all what I did today.
Right.
Was that lots of spreadsheets.
Yeah, so development's actually a really interesting thing to talk about, because a lot of work actually goes into development that I never knew about. Does that make sense? Like, I thought before, that it's like, if a game gets balanced, it's done. All you gotta do now is send cards to press. Apparently, sending cards to press is a lot of work. And I just never knew that it was a lot of work until I had to do it for Battlecon, and it's easy. So,
yeah, it's definitely every step is very involved, and even when it's easy, it's still tedious and time consuming, right?
Right, of course.
Making a manifest for a game. Yeah, I know. I could make a manifest for an Exceed product right now, but it would still take an hour or so, because I have to get all the sizes of the components correct and the numbers of the cards correct and figure out who's in what box and all that.
Right.
So, we actually have a series of articles that Brad and I wrote a year ago about the production process, the steps we take from conceptualizing a game to sending it to press. That hasn't been published yet. We might publish it sometime in the future. It's really interesting. We kind of want to be transparent about everything we do, just so that you guys know where we are when we say something, what development means and what press means stuff. And also just so, if you're interested in game design yourself, you can kind of see what a long and drawn out and time-consuming process that it really is.
I mean, if you've been tuning into any of the previous episodes of the Livecast, we've actually just been showing off the entire development of Mega Man. What are we calling it now? Codename Mega Man.
Mega Man All-Stars is the current title.
Yeah.
Tentative.
Right. So that just goes to show how difficult it is, because it's if you've watched one episode and then you watch the episode next week, you'll notice it's just an entirely different game now. All right. Now for something entirely different, right? So
right, it's not just make a game; it's make game and then make that game 30 more times.
Right, because it has to be good. That's the problem, quote unquote problem, right? Is that you just can't make the game. The game has to be good too.
And we're getting better about iter too, right? Games like Millennium, it's in Seven Cross have literally gone through 30 versions, but we have some current projects that we're kind of working on that have been greenlit that are less than 10 versions.
Right.
So I think we're getting better. When we initially conceptualize a game, what it's going to be, flavor-wise and mechanically, so that we don't, make 30 versions of Bullet or something.
Right.
By just, throwing something at a wall and see what sticks.
Right. Okay, I think I'm gonna go attach my Ethernet cable now, because I'm really getting annoyed by me dropping some frames. So, everyone, I'll be right back, I guess.
I'm not looking at the chat, so if you're asking questions, I can't answer. Now, I guess I'll continue talking about development and the press process. So it's not just, making a game and making it good and getting, after that, it's also very time intensive, right? When you have a finished product, you have to export all the components, you have to label all in such a way that press understands everything. That's kind of the big thing that people don't get a lot, is that when you send a game to press has no idea what it is at all. Obviously, they might have printed other board games before and whatnot, so they'll know what like a card is or a board is, but they don't know, how thick of a material when it made of. They don't know what coating you made of. They don't know if it's like a punch board where the punches need to go, unless you tell them. So you pretty much have to like handhold them through the entire process, right? And that's what the manifests I make usually are. Tell you how many of each component, what size or what shape they are, what colors they are, if they're like a token, like a wooden token or something. And, that kind of starts this big process of you send the game to press, you send the file press, and then they get back to you and they go, is this what you want? And that's what digital proofs are, or is the digitization of all those cards that you might have seen them on current dates in Bullet or Millennium. It's Collusion, these sheets of cards and components that are kind of pressed just going, well, here's what you told us you wanted, so I hope these cuts are right, and I hope these sizes are right, and I hope these cards are of the correct number,
right,
and whatnot. And you get to do a long, fun, like 2 weeks to 4 weeks back and forth with them until they understand exactly what you want.
Yeah,
and you made sure that you've sent them all of the correct files.
It's kind of insanity sometimes, right? Because certain games are harder to do that for than others. So, for example, right, when they send you the press files, they send you 2 files actually. Usually one for the front of the thing, one for the back of the thing, right?
Right.
So it's for some games, a lot of games actually, that's quite easy. They're all the same back, so just it's fine. But when you get to
but for something like Millennium Blades, every 6 cards is a different back.
So you have to kind of split your eyes like a chameleon and go.
Right.
It's
so it can get it's easy. It's just time consuming, and you have to be very meticulous about looking stuff, because press isn't going to catch anything for you. That's your job.
Right. That's
it's our job to make sure that they did it right.
Right. And if people are wondering, it's like how did they miss this? It's like, because there's literally hundreds upon hundreds of cards.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is that press is another step, right? When a problem happens in a game, it's a lot of times very hard to trace back what caused it.
Right.
If text is wrong on a card, for example, that could be any number of things. That could be we just typoed on the card. Or that could be we sent them the wrong file. Well, that could be they used the wrong file.
That's
like
happened.
we sent them a replacement one and they accidentally picked the wrong file.
Right.
When they print a component and it's damaged or the wrong size, that could be any number of. Well, so there's a lot of people in the industry and a lot of places that could be at fault.
Right.
But we try. We have a lot of steps in place to where we proof things many times in many different ways to make sure that the product you get is as close to perfection as we can. Look,
we're just human beings, okay? Like at some point in time, we just can't guarantee that.
Yeah, if one card in your Millennium Blades copy of 700 cards is a typo, like sorry, hopefully it doesn't impact your gameplay that much. Hopefully it's just a typo,
right?
And not like a word is missing.
Right, not like a word that wherein you'll never be able to divine what this effect means. You know what I mean? Like that's just the best hope we can get. That it's like just a cosmetic typo or something like that. But let's see what else chat is actually.
Yeah,
Colin asks,
chat questions.
Who's playing Fall Guys? Not me. I've been watching a streamer play it, and I think he says something along the lines of like Fall Guys brings out the worst in you. I think he's gone through a Joker-esque journey where he first started off as like, we can all win Fall Guys, everyone. It's fine. And then now he's doing like, we live in a society, and then he's like throwing people off the cliff, just actively blocking people and taunting them. So it's gone to complete garbage. How about you, Josh? Have you been playing Fall Guys?
I haven't been playing it either. I've just been watching some people play it on occasion. It seems really fun though.
Right.
So maybe I'll pick it up at some point.
So have you thought about putting up a kind of roadmap like what Stone Mayor does? We do have one.
Yeah, we do have a roadmap.
If you go to level99games.com/project-status, I think, you could just look for Level 99 Games project status. Or
it's at the bottom of all of our pages. There's a project
right.
status.
Go to level99games.com, scroll to the bottom, and click project status. There is literally.
I'm gonna make sure that's up to date. Now that we're talking.
Well, you know, it's.
It might be slightly out of date.
It's slightly out of date, sure. I don't think it is yet.
Let's see. Season 5 is correct. Bullet's further ahead than what this shows. It's mostly correct.
It's mostly correct, right? Like, for the projects that you want to know about, they're still correct. And, you know, it's like, you know, oh, Bullet here is... I know that Bullet is announced, but it says otherwise. I'm like, yeah, so now you know it's announced, you know?
Right. Oh, Season 6 is on here. Okay. Huh.
Right.
Interesting.
We'll see. Right. I mean, look, it's correct. Whatever Season 6 is.
Yeah, no, that's right. It's just that... It's just another reminder of the, oh yeah, I still can't talk about Season 6. Like, we just announced Season 5, and it's like, yes, I can talk about Season 5, but I still can't talk about Season 6.
Right, because we know what Season 6 is, and our irons are in the fire.
We know what Season 7 is, too.
We also know what Season 7 is. Now, actually, how far do we know? I think only there, right? Like, I don't know.
We know Season 6, we know Season 7. I know what Season 8 will be if we don't have a Season 8.
Okay, that's not a correct answer, though.
Right, so we know up to Season 7.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Have you thought of... how many alt art cards are included in the deluxe edition? I believe one alternate art card per character. Yes?
In the organized... For Season 5?
Yeah, for Season 5. Right,
in the organized play kit?
Right,
is what you're talking about?
Yeah.
There are slightly more. So there's an alternate art for every character except Ragna, who gets 2 alternate arts.
Because he's Ragna.
And does 9 get 2 alternate arts? 9 and Ragna, like a zany alternate costume thing. That's the one extra card because it's fun. But everyone has at least 1. And a couple have 2. I think that's Ragna.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Platy might have 1, but I think Plat says just her normal card alternate art. So yeah, 16 to 18-ish, 1 for every character. It's very exciting if you like alternate arts.
Yeah,
no, these are alternate arts, not mechanics.
Right.
So the mechanics will be the same.
So it's literally just cosmetic. It's just a promo. Mm-hmm. It's like the 7th Cross ones. It's just like the 7th Cross ones, right?
I've been very hammery about our promos being cosmetic from now on because I personally hate, oh, you didn't go to the Mount Fuji Season 5 tournament, so you don't get this, Mount Fuji Ragna that plays completely differently. Sorry.
And is superior to regular Ragna, you know what I mean?
Yeah, at least if you miss out, yeah, cosmetics are cool, but it's not the end of the world.
Right. So I'm curious about how many versions of Bullet were there. There's actually a blog series about that.
28.
Right, you went through around 20 to 30 iterations of Bullet, and they were very significantly different from each other, right? Like there was one where it was more like a dexterity game, right?
Yeah, so when we say version at level games, we usually mean a completely different game. like a major part game system has changed, usually the entire system. So there were, I guess, 27 other versions of Bullet that were completely different games that you never saw, and that I talk a little bit about on the blog. So there was 5 different deck builders. It's a dexterity game. There was a couple other real-time games that played Space Invaders. So there's a bunch of different things. There was a grid-based dudes on a map combat-y thing.
Nice.
So yeah, and that's kind of a problem, right? It's not some talking about in a positive light. It took us 2 years to go through when we could have just gone, we could have defined what Bullet was early on instead of just going, let's just try all these shmup things and see what works, because it took 2 years.
Yeah. It's something we have to get better with. Because as Brad always says, a lot of the people in the company, I think every single one of us is a creative, right? We're very creative people. So the problem with creatives, at least in my end of the court, is that you just want to make things. And sometimes the act of making consumes you more than the need to finish something. Does that make sense? You want to keep making more and more stuff as opposed to putting a lot of checks in place to just make the first thing you make actually good. You know what I mean? Like,
right. There was like 4 or 5 other versions of Bullet that were perfectly printable that we could have just done, that we just went, nah, not good enough. And, or they didn't play to a high enough player count, or, didn't these certain checkboxes that we wanted to check
right.
with Bullet.
But if you had defined those things prior to making that
Yeah, but we didn't know what those checkboxes were really at the start.
That's the problem.
We kind of just went, we want a shmup game, and it should probably play 2 players, but maybe it can play more, but maybe it should have modes, but maybe it shouldn't.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot better about defining what the core game experience of a new game we make should be from the get-go.
Right. And that's very important, especially for me.
We just greenlit a new game that's like version 3. That's insane.
Yes, that's insane.
That game is very, very weird, and I don't think it could have gone through a lot of overhauls without losing its identity, but we know what its identity is, and we were able to go, this is fine very early on.
Because we set that identity, like you knew what you needed to make, right? And at the end of the day, that's kind of very important, especially for somebody like me who wants to finally greenlight my own game. I mean, people in the Discord know the game that I'm talking about.
The Shonen sports game.
Yeah. So if people are interested in what that entails or what that's about, ask in chat, I guess. Let's move on to the next question here. Don't worry, the community will find it when the product comes out. Don't worry, we'll tell you about it when it comes out, really.
Sure.
Is there any plan of a Spanish version of Exceed? Do we have a Spanish version? We have Spanish versions of Millennium Blades. We have Spanish versions of Bullet.
Not currently too much. We kind of usually localization works is other interested companies contact us, and so currently we've had no interest from those quadrants of the world.
Right.
We might actively pursue it later, but currently we're pretty swamped with other projects to be pursuing localizations ourselves. So if you want a Spanish version of Exceed, contact your local board game company, publisher, and ask them to ask us for Exceed.
Right. Poke us for Exceed, please. We want Exceed. Is the checkboxes a new design process since Brad was doing it with Mega Man? Yes, it's relatively new. I think Mega Man was the first time I've ever seen the thing,
Yeah.
So it's
and that's a very Brad thing too, right? We all kind of have our own design philosophies and stuff. Obviously, there's checkboxes that check, but Brad literally makes checkboxes and plans out a new version to the T and whatnot. Whereas my approach is a little more nebulous, and I just kind of have ideas in my head that I want to see, and I don't necessarily write down a huge checklist of things that I ask my players and whatnot. And it also depends on the game too, right?
Right. It's different for all of us, and it's different for each game. But the point is that you need to know. You need to know what it is, right?
Yeah, you need to know something, and you need to have it somewhere, whether that's in your on a Google Doc or whatever.
Right. You can't just go around making multiple versions of a game. Basically, you can't just slot.
I mean, you can, but you'll end up with Bullet, where you get 20 versions in and go, what is this game again?
Right. Yeah, you can't just slot machine the mechanics wheel until you find the right one. You know what I mean?
You can. It just takes too long.
Yeah, but that's my point.
It's not what you want to be doing.
Yeah, you don't want to do that, right? It's not a good way to make sure that you develop and release games in a timely fashion. You know what I mean? Let's see. You're talking about knowing a Season 6 and Season 7. Do you know any standalone promo decks coming out for Exceed? That's even more of a thing that none of us know about, because...
Oh, well, I mean,
I
kind of know.
I mean, yeah.
But currently...
but that's the thing, right? It's a kind of thing, right? It really...
Right.
It really depends on who decides, to go, hey, we want to work with you. Because essentially, every time we do a promo, it's another IP, right?
It certainly depends on the IP, but we're trying to keep the product's footprint pretty consistent.
Right.
When we work with an IP, we try to make sure there's at least one box of 4 characters, for example. Right. The only time we would do a single promo is if it's a big IP that only has one workable character.
Right, Dead Cells, right? You're not gonna get an entire box of characters for Dead Cells. There's only one character.
But we'd ideally like to make seasons that have a lot of characters. That can have a box or 2 or 3 or 4.
Right.
And there are characters in BlazBlue, for example, that we didn't do that we could release as promos if we wanted to, but currently we want to keep to a 4-box structure. Maybe like Street Fighter, if it does well enough, we might return to it later and do another season with another box or 2 or 3 or 4 eventually.
Yeah, but standalone promos are a very different kind of thing. It just makes the identity of the game really hard to understand.
It's an identity thing. You can't buy a promo fighter and play Exceed, but you can buy a box and Exceed. And also, it's like a time and money concern, right? When we did Dead Cells, we had to pay a graphic designer to do a completely new template just for one character.
Right.
And that's a lot of time and effort just for one character. But it's cool and sick and all, but it's if we're going to be spending that kind of time and money on something, we could just be getting an entire season worth of templates out of it.
Right.
So I think if we were to do a single character promo feature, it would have to be the biggest of deals. I can't even think IP that only has 1 or 2 characters that's really big, like Shantae maybe.
Yeah, even
it would be an example of some that we are not necessarily doing right now. That is an example of what I'm talking about for a solo fighter, of course.
Right.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. Yeah, so that's the thing. I think people are wondering, is there going to be a BlazBlue promo character, essentially?
Right. We have no current plans for any of the current or future planned seasons to have solo fighters. Right. But that could change in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, basically the thing is, if we wanted them in the game, we would have just put them in a box. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or, we just... And they're like, but what if you ran out of slots? And then we can just go, well, we could just make another box.
Yeah, there's certainly more BlazBlue characters to make boxes out of if the cards are right.
Right. So there you go. I think my internet's dying. Chat, can you still see us? Chat, can you still see us? It's something I do want to ask because apparently... OBS is saying I'm dropping frames.
Well, as long as they can still hear us, that's okay.
Yeah, welcome to internet in the Philippines, right? This is a fiber connection, by the way. Supposedly a fiber connection.
Oh, really?
Yeah, dude. It's rough beans, as they say. Okay, so are there any more questions? Do people want to know about other things? Are people curious about some of the things we might be working on, etc., etc.? If not, Josh and I are gonna shoot the breeze. Whatever for the next
phrases that don't involve explicitives, right?
Right. For the next maybe 10 more minutes, and then we're gonna end the show. Mostly because I'm terrified about my internet deciding to drop out on me. So everyone, if you have any more questions, get your questions in before we end the show. I've been really swamped, I guess. I'm really excited to be working more on Mega Man. So, for people who don't know, Mega Man's moving from its design phase to its development phase. And those are very different things. Design is where you're doing what Josh was talking about, make a new version of a game. Is this thing fun? Is this mechanic going to be kept? Etc., 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 etc. Development is more of what I do for Level 99 Games, which is the realm of shall you pass my balance inquiries? It's
right. Now the game system is locked. We just have to make sure the components are balanced, right?
Right. Yeah, it's really interesting because, like I said, when the design is done, that's kind of where I love playing. Because now, basically, the game is set in stone, and I can't really change what it is, right?
You can change what's on components, but you can't change what the components are, or the amounts, or how the system works.
Right, exactly.
Or anything like that.
So, it's like when something pops up in testing, I can't just go to Brad and go, we can't have this mechanic anymore because X, Y, Z. Brad would then go, well, no, I want that mechanic in the game, make it work, right?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, you can do it at a minutia, right? You can come to me and go hey, Airman doesn't work or isn't fun where like we could formulate a new airman.
Right, but
on the spot.
I can't just go.
But you can't go like, hey, I don't know about these robot masters.
Yeah, or I don't know about chips, man. I think we should change chips. I'm like,
Yeah, like that's non-discussionable
right.
at that point.
It's like the Battlecon equivalent of trying to balance Enderbite, and then you go, styles cannot exist in Battlecon anymore, right? Like that's just it's a non-negotiable.
You could say like Enderbite doesn't have styles, but you can't say styles can't exist anymore.
Exactly. All right. So people are saying that we're still here, but we're dropping sometimes. I'll work with that. That's fine. This is now a podcast. Yes. How is the history book design going? I think they're talking about Grand Chronicle.
Grand Chronicle.
Right.
It's going. Let's see. We have an editor looking over the text right now, the very extensive text, and when that's done, which I think will be like this week or something,
right.
We'll start laying it out into the template that Davey has made for us, and we'll be getting it off to press probably this month or next. So you'll likely get Grand Chronicle hands by the end of the year if everything goes as planned. It's really cool. I'm like one of the only people on staff that's actually read the whole thing. It's really, really neat.
Yeah, the lore must be really cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of lore. It's more lore than art, but there's still lots of art and new art too that was made exclusively for the Grand Chronicle.
Oh, right, right. So if people haven't seen some of those, we've actually shown off some of them in our Battlecon updates. It's the ones where it's like vignettes of the most epic moments in history in Battlecon, I guess. It's like, when
the big scenes.
Right, when Elgor and Runica go and fight Agena, for example, and they try to kill her, right? And stuff like that. How's Battlecon looking? Battlecon is looking mighty fine.
It should be on a boat
should be
next week, I believe, is what I was told.
Right.
So it is in the process of being shipped to fulfillment centers
so that they can
as of next week.
Out to you.
So we're getting there. We're in the final stretch.
We're in the final stretch. It's really good. Don't know if anyone asked yet, but are there more Bullard Cat? Yes, if you've been watching this podcast, if you watched this podcast way before we started doing Mega Man, we actually previewed a Bullet character with like
from the next set.
The next set of bullets. So, yes, there's already a planned Bullet sequel, and yes, we already have art for some of them.
There is at least one expansion coming for Bullet that you may or may not hear about this year that we've shown off one art for.
Right, and we're this time we're not promising that it's coming anytime. We're not promising anything. Right. We're just saying
we're working on it. It's happening.
Right.
When we announce it, we'll have a lot to announce, and it'll be.
Oh my gosh.
It'll be.
We talked about
cool.
who that character was, right?
Oh, Yin? Yeah, we've talked about Yin.
Right. So for people who don't know, the character was Yin, YNN, your news network. She's an AI that can brainwash people. That's her power.
Yeah, she's like an AI of like a news station on Earth that's kind of like taken over, and like is her own like thing now.
And is your in-universe explanation for how all of this absurd stuff is happening, but mass panic hasn't ensued?
Right. Yin kind of like keeps the Earth population under control, so that most people on Earth don't realize that there's crazy alien invasions and stuff happening. They just think like a tomato truck spilled on the highway or whatever, and that's why there's all that red stuff that they're cleaning up.
Right. Or, there's like a giant crack in the Earth, and that totally wasn't one of the girls using their magic powers to crack the Earth. That was just an earthquake.
Right, that's just a big fissure, and it's fine, and everything will be fixed in like 5 seconds.
Right.
So, yeah, so there's, it's another expansion. It's planned. It's coming eventually. More heroines, more gameplay. Get excited.
So what are the chances of Battlecon arriving in my doorstep before the first week of September?
It depends on where you live.
Depends on where you live.
Unlikely, but possible.
Yeah. Remember, the shipping dates change, and we're trying to just get it shipped out as soon as possible. Again, I will make an update on the actual Kickstarter once I have more information, because I don't think just going, it's on a boat, is enough to is enough to make an entire update.
Right. Once it's being shipped or at phone centers, we will let you know as soon as we know.
Right. Of course. Again, I'm not trying to hide anything or whatever. Yeah, I'm not trying to go, ooh, you know.
Right.
We try to.
Yeah, we you know as much as we know.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Like when I know, you guys will know. Don't worry about it. I'm equally, if not more, excited to have Battlecon in my hands. Mostly because this time I worked on it a lot. So, there you go. Also, will there ever be Android versions of your games? We've decided to step away from video game development indefinitely. Mostly because we want to focus on the thing that we're good at, which is board games. So, there you go. So, for the foreseeable future, nope. No Android versions of our games. Lonely Island, it's on a boat. Yes, Lonely Island, it's on a boat. That's a creative way around that. Yeah, I mean, sometimes doing in-universe explanations for things is fun, right? Battlecon has a lot of in-universe explanations for things. You know, there's wild magic. There's just all sorts of like weird explanations, and you know, the lore to games is very, very fun.
That's like the whole reason that Gar exists. When I made her, I wanted to justify bases in canon. So like that's like her whole design principle is like, here's where the bases came from.
Right. So for people who don't know,
why they exist.
Gar is a disciple of the Six Paths, right? And in case you didn't know, there are 6 bases in Battlecon, right? So the Six Paths is actually, in lore, the proto-martial art. It is the grandfather of all martial arts. All other martial arts are based on the Six Paths, right? So that's why every character seemingly fights with the same set of bases, because they're all actually just based on the same martial art, which existed like way before in Battlecon's past, or in Indians' past, right?
Right.
So, yeah, that's why Gar has a version of the bases that are called primal bases or whatever, and they're all like, you know, like this one looks like Drive, but it's not exactly Drive. You know, it's a more like feral version of Drive, right? And
yeah, they've certainly been refined into the current version over the years.
Right. It's a really cool in lore thing, and I really like that. I really like that one of her finishers is just dodge. Like,
right.
And you called it like the Forbidden Path or something.
Yeah. So originally, one of Gar's original finishers was literally just like dash. And it was called the Forbidden Path. Is it still dash? Okay, good.
It still essentially is a dash, right? It's start of beat, she gets to retreat as much as she wants. So it's essentially a dash, right?
It was way more dashy, original version, though. You could go
I bet she could like
backwards.
Right, yeah. Yeah, the Forbidden Path. So that's kind of like an inside joke, because when Brad initially made Battlecon, dash spamming was not, like, they didn't think of dash spamming as like a good thing to do. Right? They're like, oh, if you read your opponent's about to do something really powerful, then you dash against them to dodge it. But then Battlecon players, me included, realized, wait a freaking second. This thing just says every 3 turns I get to not get hit, get instant positioning, and then if I have a style that gives me resources, gain those resources for free. So, yeah, that's why and then Brad was like, I didn't expect that to happen, so that's why the dodge finisher is the Forbidden Path, right? Because it's not
it's 6 paths backstep now, but that's what it used to be, certainly.
Yes. What's the status of PTO? Again, we've decided to step away from video game development, so PTO is on indefinite hold as well. Yeah, digital development takes a ton of investment for sometimes really small payoff. It's because so for video game development, one thing that we've come to realize is that you have to set it up for success. It doesn't work like board games, right? You can't just be like, hey, here's the game that we've been working on. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, and then put it out into the world. Because the video game market's infinitely more saturated than the board game market, right? Like, not to say that there aren't a lot of board games coming out. It's just that there's infinitely more video games coming out. So you need to have that X factor, you need to have that marketing budget, you need to have a lot of people excited to make a game sustainable. Because
yeah, you have to capture your audience like right away, pretty much.
Right, and not just that, right? But like making a game is just more expensive, right? Making a video game is just more expensive than making a board game. Like, that's just the reality of it, right? The amount you have to pay a coder, the amount you have to pay to keep servers, like the amount of artists you have to pay for animations, right? Like it just requires more resources to be put into it. So yeah, Carpe Guitarum says, sometimes small payoff. I guess no more video game design answers my question. Yeah, there's a lot of apprehension about making more video games. We'd rather just, I guess, stick to what we know, right?
Basically,
Future bullet season of Exceed, maybe, Josh? Maybe.
I mean, I've already talked about this, so I can talk about it a little more now. I was working on Bullet Exceed while Bullet was being developed,
right.
Around version 22, I already had a full season of Bullet Exceed made. It is not on the schedule. It is not something that has been greenlit or that we're working on in any capacity,
right,
other than me in my spare time for funsies. So it's something that I would like to do in the future. It's something that I think Brad would like to do in the future, but it's not on the table currently. We have a lot of Exceeds lined up.
Right, let's make it very clear. Not a confirmation of anything.
Right.
Not a promise that it will happen.
You might see it in the future, but nothing, no plans currently.
It's a very, very interesting thing. Speaking of Exceed seasons, I'm really excited for... So here's the thing, right? Like I said, we're all creatives. So we've worked a little bit on that Bullet Exceed in our spare times, right? And one thing I really like about, whenever we get to a new season of Exceed, it's just making the characters. I really love making UAs and making... if you've been on the Discord, I've made customs for Exceed, for funsies. So, making characters it's just a really fun process. And if you really want to get into that and really want to understand the design of characters for Exceed, you can go to our Discord, go to the Customs Characters channel, or watch one episode of the podcast that I made by myself where I talk about design in Exceed. So if you want that, there's an episode for that. You can search for it on our channel. If it isn't clear yet, I'm excited for Bullet. We all are.
Cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Exceed season Bullet, though.
Every day I wake up in a cold sweat, terrified that I left a section out of the rulebook or something, or that people aren't going to like it, or whatever. So it's always good to hear.
Or that we
positive
accidentally
feedback.
Didn't figure out an interaction that happens. That's my cold sweat moment, right? My cold sweat moment is what if this boss does XYZ against QUR character in this one specific scenario that I didn't find? And then, because of that, the game literally explodes. And I don't know. Man.
So I'm very excited to get it done and get it into people's hands so that we can see what everyone thinks when they have the finished product.
Right. I mean,
so that hopefully we can make more Bullet, because that's what I'm pretty hyped about.
Based on what some of the reviewers are saying, apparently they like it. So hopefully.
Yeah, it's generally a positive received so far. But I mean, it's all been based off TTS plays, right? Which is the full game experience, of course. But when you have hands, it's going to be a little bit of a different experience.
Right.
Hopefully, a better one.
For example, I think one of the bigger things is that people who play Youngja can't just highlight all of the bullets and then move them all to the left once. You know what I mean?
I mean, you got 5 fingers on each hand. It's
right,
not
you got to slide them bullets now, right? Mm-hmm. But I guess that's the big thing. I think once people get it into their hands, it actually only becomes better because I think personally 30 to 40% of the appeal of Bullet is the tactile feel of having the wooden chits, or even the regular punch sheet chits, just shuffling them in the bag, pulling them out, stuff. So that's not
every physical game of Bullet I've played with real people in real life. I have seen at least one player grab a stack of they've cleared and go and slide them into the incoming of the player left. So I definitely think the physical components will add some more fun to it.
For sure.
That TTS can't give you.
Right. I played solo on Tabletop Simulator several times. Which mode? There's 2 solo modes, so I assume it's boss or score attack. Whichever one you played, both of them are pretty fun. I prefer boss mode myself, but hey, it's personal opinion. Is there anything else we want to talk about? We talked about Bullet, we talked about Battlecon, we talked about
Have we talked about all of our current projects? Grand Chronicle, Exceed,
Millennium Blades.
Millennium Blades. Yeah. So Collusion. We are currently awaiting a physical proof from the factory, and then once that's being like printed right now, along with all of the other copies of Collusion.
Nice.
All of the digital proofs have been approved. So once we get that and approve that, probably within the next couple weeks, I would imagine. I need actually email press about a timeline on that. We will approve that, and then it will start shipping.
Yeah.
Like Battlecon. So we'll keep you updated
Right.
on the updates as I find out.
Can't you wait, Josh, for the fact wherein at some point in the future there will be a time wherein people can only bug us about one project instead of
that
like...
point. That point is very far in the future because Seventh Cross isn't done yet. Seventh Cross is like the final hurdle of like the backlog.
Right, but once that's done, though, once that's done, it's
but
gonna be one at a time, baby.
Getting through Battlecon and Collusion is great. It's a great feeling. I'm so glad those are done. Not that I don't like the thing.
No. But I get it, right? It's like, again, we're creatives, right? So as much as we love those games, those universes deserve to be expanded in other games, right? How are we gonna...
And not just that, too. Just these projects have been on our plate, like, forever.
Like, as much as people are frustrated that they're delayed constantly, like, yeah, we're there with you. We're also frustrated that they keep getting delayed, right? So, that's why...
if I see one more Millennium Blades art at this point, I'm probably going to vomit, or, like, one press thing. I'm so... Not, like, sick of it, but, like...
We wanted to get
especially
done.
now that we're... I want to be done.
Right.
I want to move on to other projects. I want to, get these games into people's hands,
right,
so that they can enjoy them.
That gives us a lot of insight as to why Bullet's project was handled the way it was. So for people who don't know, we just said in this stream that Bullet is essentially heading to press, right?
It's being printed right now. Like, we've already approved everything. Well, wait, we have to approve the wooden bullets. Sure. And once those are approved, printing happens.
But that's my point, right? That's my point.
That's it.
This project, when did we start this Kickstarter? Like, April, May, right? Something like that? I mean, right.
Yeah.
Now it's like 3-4 months later, and Bullet's basically done at the same time that Millennium Blades and Battlecon were done.
The plan, right? When we announce a game, we want it to be very far along, if not finished, right? We'd already talked to you today about an expansion. Bullet, once we actually announce it and tell you it is,
it
will pretty much be done.
Right.
Maybe we'll do something with it, like a Kickstarter or something, but even if we do that, in theory, the game will be pretty much done.
Right.
Same with Project Crane, same with Season 6, hopefully. Season 6 may or may not be an IP that we have to get approved too, so that might take a little longer.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully the same with Seventh Cross. So that's kind of the plan, is to finish a game and then tell you about it.
Right, as opposed to tell you about it and then finish the game 2 years later.
Right.
I think it's a really cool policy, and this is also why we don't like stretch goals. So to peel back the veneer a little bit, right? Stretch goals are the reason, or at least 99.99% of the reason why delays happen. It's kind of crazy. Because essentially we can't pre-make stretch goals for the project because it's just not feasible for us to do that, right? For example, if a project would have 5 extra characters, that's like 1/3 of a season of Exceed, right? Or
like
half
we might
of
have the work done for them, but we haven't tested them, we haven't balanced them, we might not even know what they are yet.
Right, we haven't even designed them or anything like that, right?
If Collusion had no stretch goals, I could have finished it 4 times over by now.
Right, but because of the stretch goals, all the extra characters, all the extra sets, especially for a game like any of our games, because in our games when you add one component, it's not just it's not like a weird Euro game where you go here's this one extra mechanic you can do as a side variant, right? When you do that for one of our games, it balloons. Because what happens is now this component gets added to the game, and it has to work with every other component, and you have to make sure that it doesn't break some of the other components. Because when you add a character to Battlecon, when you add a character to Exceed, you're adding it to an ecosystem that already exists, right? So it's not just you can randomly shove any character in there and assume they're balanced. You have to essentially gauntlet test them against everything. So it's
not just a mechanical domino effect; it's a production domino effect too, right? You know, if my manifests were done and we hit a stretch goal with a new character, now they're suddenly not done. I have to update the rules. I have to update the boxes. Almost every single component, a new thing will touch in some aspect, whether it be a components list or an art on a box or whatnot. It definitely has a domino effect too. And that's not to say that we won't ever do stretch goals again, ever forever. But if we do, they would take a different form. They would be a kind of stretch goal that doesn't cause a domino effect, like a component upgrade, right? If we change the cards to a different card stock or make them punch, whatever, that's just me changing a note on the manifest, and that's it.
Right. It's not going to require extra design. It's not going to require extra balancing. It's not going to require extra files to be made, right? It's that's something that we've come to realize is a very important thing, is that more than giving you guys we can deliver you guys experiences that are full and very replayable without having to add all of these extra stuff into it, right?
Yeah, and stretch goals, not doing stretch goals doesn't mean we're not going to do stuff, right? We could have 4 character or 6 new characters as stretch goals for a bullet starter, or we could just
make a new bullet
make another bullet, just make another bullet game later instead,
right?
Which is what we're doing, right?
Right.
We had character ideas ready for an expansion, and we could have put them as stretch goals on Bullet, but you wouldn't have gotten Bullet this year,
right?
If that had happened.
Yeah, this is going to be the first project we deliver early, so hopefully
I'm very excited for that.
Hopefully we keep doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
I wish there was something Battlecon related besides waiting. Well, yes, there technically is something Battlecon related besides waiting. If you want, you can join our Discord server and ask around the Battlecon channels and ask around the new TTS mod that Baron Hollows or Lord Hollows, I don't know, they keep changing their name, has been making. And it has a lot of the version 4 characters. If you want to see the cards, play with the cards, there's a TTS module up for it if you want. There you go. We haven't publicly announced it because the module's not done. Hollow says that they have a lot more work to do on it. Well, not a lot, but they're still working on it, right? So, there you go. Just an FYI, all my ads on Facebook seem to have become level 99 ads. Good. We're actually pushing a lot of marketing. So we've recently decided to start marketing our games more quote-unquote aggressively. I'm not sure if that's the correct word, but more marketing, more visibility. Because I think one thing to realize is that a lot of people might actually enjoy our games. They just haven't heard about the games yet. So there you go. I just want the storage box for Collusion. I can't even get a custom box made for it. It's a big game. So hopefully Collusion gives you the storage solution you need. I want to say a few weeks ago, these guys mentioned funding more ads. And since then, that is most of what mine have been. Yeah, we've been funding more ads. We've been doing more... we've been trying to get out to websites, to publish articles and press releases, so that people find out about our games. Because I think the thing about it is that when you have a product you're very confident in, you just need to connect that product to the people who will want it. Why not have a backlog of character ideas that are mostly finished but not fitting in the set and save them as future stretch goals to polish and ship, not as a hard new character from scratch? Because at that point, why don't we just put it in the real game?
Right. If we're finishing, for example, in the bullet, if we wanted to make 6 characters and launch with 6 stretch goals ready, that would mean you wouldn't be hearing about Bullet at all until November, right? So we would prefer, I think, to just do 2 separate games. And it's also, commit to, right? When we launched Bullet, we didn't know what Pop was going to be. It could have flopped. Just because most of our projects succeed doesn't mean the next one won't.
Right.
So we also don't want to commit too much, especially to a new IP and when we haven't proven its success yet. Now that we have, I will say, a little behind the curtain, before Bullet even finished funding, Brad greenlit my Bullet expansion, and we started work on it. So your voices are heard, so to speak, when campaigns do well.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, right? Like when you all this is technically packaging, right? If we, for example, we have 12 characters, 6 of them we put in the original core game, 6 of them we put in an expansion. If you wanted the 6 to be part of a stretch goal, instead of, for example, hearing about core game and getting it 6 months from now, and then getting the other game 6 months from then, you would just get nothing for 12 months and then get 12 characters at the end of the year, right? Like it's all the same thing. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, it's do you want a small thing now, or do you want a slightly bigger thing later? And we kind of just want to do piecemeal,
right.
products.
It also lowers the barrier to entry to those things, right? Because, like, for example,
right, if we released a bullet with like 16 characters, that's going to cost you more, right? Because it's a bigger box, it's more components and stuff. Yeah, I guess we could split it into 2 boxes, the Kickstarter. But again, the Kickstarter would happen in November, and you wouldn't get it to like June next year. Right. So it's all timelines too, and we also have to balance products with other stuff we have going on too. Like we've said, we have a lot of new products coming up that we haven't announced yet that we have to kind of balance with what can get done sooner or later, right? If we wanted to make Bullet with 16 characters, well, we're not going to start on it till later because we can finish Succeed now, kind of thing.
So somebody's in the chat, they're asking, of course, depends on how much content hits the cutting room floor in your average game. Let me just tell you this, right? There are currently 8 characters in Bullet. I think Josh has a document listing 20 of them.
Bullet was originally planned for 20 characters, and 20 characters have concept sheets and mechanics.
Right.
Like light, tentative, untested mechanics, but
that's the thing, right? They're light, tentative, and untested. And if we basically, it's about spreading yourself too thin, right? Trying to get too many characters done at the same time is kind of spreading yourself a little too thin. Battlecon experiences this a lot because, like when we did Devastation, that was 30 characters, right? Like, why do you think every box after Devastation was 10 characters? Like, there's a reason, right? It's just crazy to have to do too many.
It's to do something that's right? It's also like a business thing as well, right? If we can't, we financially just can't afford to spend an entire year working on one game. So like we have to release games every so often,
right,
to stay afloat. We can do other things, we can sell our existing game, whatnot, and we can do deals and things. But at the end of the day, we gotta release the game sometimes,
right?
And so, that's why we're kind of focusing on smaller box products, not like Pixel Tactics, but more like Bullet.
Yeah, more like
stuff
Bullet.
Exceed.
More like Shonen Sports Game whenever it happens. Oh,
right, whatever that is.
Whatever that is, right? I'm glad Bullet has that kind of demand, though. The game is super dope. Looking forward to what's to come when it comes. Yeah, I'm really excited for some of the expansion Bullet characters, specifically because I've strong-armed Ithri into making a character for me.
Oh yeah, perks of being staff.
Perks of being staff is getting to know and be friends with the designers and then going, hey, I want X kind of character to be in the game. Shipping beats perfection. Kinda, yeah. like that's the thing. If you gave us infinite time, we could give you the perfect product. But that's not the reality.
Because like nothing is ever going to be perfect.
Exactly. Right?
At the end of the day, a game has to ship, and sometimes you have to make that decision of when, and sometimes it's now, and sometimes it's in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and sometimes that means, sometimes that means X text doesn't get printed correctly. Sometimes that means X character doesn't get balanced 100% of the matches. And, if you fight them in this one matchup, they have a 3-7 matchup against that character. Like, at some point, you just have to let it go.
Well, and that's part of the reason of these smaller scale games, right, is because, not only do we get a smaller cycle for development, but we have more time to focus on the things that are in that cycle, right?
Right. I don't think I would have been able to balance. Like, for example, if we had to balance 10, 20 characters for Bullet, I'm pretty sure Senka and Mario would be completely broken if they had to ship.
It is quite possible, yeah.
Right? Like...
And, we learn things, too. When, even now, even though Bullet isn't out yet, we've already been seeing a lot of feedback from people who played it that we can take and use in the next expansion. Like, for example... A lot of people are looking for heroines that are a little more interactive with other players, and we know that now, and we're working on that for the expansion. And if we had made all 20 runs at once, like possibly none of them would have been interactive.
Right, and it also, from a development standpoint, it also gives us a big advantage, because when you get that first set done, you kind of create the foundation for balancing everything else in the future. So, like, for example, in Battlecon and Exceed, they have these things called magic numbers or magic stats, right? So in Battlecon, it's your typical range 1 to 3, power 4/5, speed 6, stun guard 4/3, right? It's these things that basically dictate or become heuristics for balancing characters in the future. Bullet now technically has those because we balanced this set. So, like, these 8 characters, as balanced as I think they are probably going to be the least balanced characters in Bullet's entire lifetime, because they're the first, right? So it's really useful, I think, that we've been able to do that. So, for example, like, just one thing is that Josh and I have basically decided that marker characters are cool, but it has to be really worth it to put the marker character in the game, right?
Yeah, marker characters. Mariel and Senka caused a lot of problems in development and with the rule and stuff. So,
right.
We probably won't see as many markers in the future. I know of at least one that's planned because she's cool enough.
Right, but even
you might not see her right away.
Her marker doesn't even work anything like Senka's or Mariel's, right?
Right, it's very clean, I think,
Hopefully.
for an untested character.
Right,
yeah,
hopefully.
We'll see.
Yeah, that's the thing. Wait, as a Senka main, I like that outcome. You like that... Oh, they're talking about Senka being broken. She's not broken anymore.
She's fine,
yeah.
I think.
So for people who don't know in development, right, Senka used to be supremely broken because her patterns used to not have requirements. Like right now,
she used to have 3 crosshairs.
Oh my god!
Way long time ago.
I didn't even reach that version. So yeah, because currently right now, most of her patterns have that requirement that your crosshair has to be on a bullet, right? But prior to that, it used to be like no requirements, like period, just no requirements. So you can imagine how broken that was.
Too free.
Yeah, it was too free. Once the first set is done, you can really iterate on the best gameplay parts and become evident only once the game is in the wild. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, basically. Right. We tested some characters yesterday for a Bullet product that it's always a little like, I'm always torn, right? Because when you make a new concept and you start them for a test drive, it's, of course, they're like super busted because they've never tested.
Yeah, of course.
But like, it's also really fun, right? It's fun experiencing a character for the first time, and it's a little like, it's a bit of a bummer when Marco goes like, okay, now we got to pull them back a bit.
I'm sorry.
And well, no, it's fine. Like, it's like our test yesterday. Like, we pretty much decided that those characters were pretty okay.
Right.
And
right.
it's kind of the best feeling in the world when you iterate a character on version 1 and they kind of work.
Right.
And you kind of know that like, this is basically going to be their final version. Like, they're not going to get a big overhaul.
Right.
Or anything.
Like this one thing might have to go up or down 1 stat point, but like that's it.
Yeah, you might have to adjust a number or something. Like, they're always going to do this kind of thing, right?
And that's just the benefit of, doing a lot of versions or a lot of iterations really quickly. Like, we were only able to get that good because we got good by doing the first 8 characters of Bullet. If we had to do all of these characters at one go, all of them would essentially be Nooblet Marco and Nooblet Josh having to work with them. But now that we've upgraded to Pro Marco and Pro Josh, they're much. It's so much easier now.
You're gonna get even more refined heroines in the future.
But that also means one thing: because we're better, we can be more ambitious with what they do, right? Like the heroines in the new set are basically insanity. You thought Youngjo was
nuts,
weird.
yeah.
You thought Youngjo was weird? Just you wait.
Everyone is kind of like Youngjo plus 1. Not everyone. There's still easy and hard heroines, and the easy ones are still easy. But they, now that we have a solid foundation for our house, so to speak, we can kind of build the house however we want. We can paint it whatever we want. We can make as many floors as we want.
Right.
We can do crazy stuff because we know what balance is, and we know when something gets out of hand.
Right, and that's the cool thing, because they always say that before you color out of the lines, you have to learn how to color within the lines first, right?
Yeah, like you wouldn't see Tinker Knight in Red Horizon.
Right, exactly. So stuff that you take for granted in regular Bullet, right? Like who's to say you should always have a deck of cards to draw from? Who's to say that your patterns always clear a certain number of things? Who's to say your patterns even clear things, right?
Yeah, that's always the question we ask when we make a new is what is sacred in this game? What actually can't change and still keep the game the way it is, right? And in Bullet, pretty much nothing is sacred.
Except having to interact with your board with bullets. Like, that's probably the most sacred
having a sight is like pretty much the only sacred thing, and I'm trying my darndest to make a one that doesn't use a sight.
We've tried,
but it's
man.
really, really hard.
Right, because it basically means she never plays the real game, so it's kind of weird. But
you always have to be playing Bullet, and play Bullet involves currently having a sight to put bullets on.
Right.
But anything else, like Crazy Town, fair game.
Who's to say you need to have actions? Who's to say you can't print things on your site? Who's to say
you only have one UA board? Like,
right.
Oh, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's nuts.
Who's to say you can't use your boss form as another UA during non-boss mode? Like, who cares, man? It's Crazy Town.
Yeah. Who says you can't have a dexterity mechanic,
All right. Oh, a dexterity mechanic. Like, what other insanity? Like these aren't confirmations of any mechanics, right? These are just things that I'm literally spitting out and going is this a possibility? Is this not? Right? Like, who's to say you need to
can the system support this? Probably.
Right. Who's to say that your character can't create a special kind of bullet that goes in somebody's bag, right? Or who's to say that a character can't have mechanics that just don't make sense in Bullet, right? Like, what?
Because every heroine is insular,
right?
And it's kind of like multiplayer solid, right? You can kind of do what you want. Like a heroine can create their own unique mechanic as long as they're the only person that interacts with it, right?
Right. Yeah, 2 sites? Why not? Right?
Yeah, sure.
Sure, dude.
As long as barring testing, of course, but
right.
When you're conceptualizing, the sky's the limit. That's the really, really fun part. Is okay, where's the ceiling? How high can we go?
Circle site, triangle site. Like, who do?
Well, was that a chat? Did chat mention triangle site?
No. I was just spitballing random.
Yeah, Ekalo originally had a triangle site, and that didn't work out so hot. Right. So I think that
but
the site being
sacred is maybe now it might, because now we're pro Josh and pro Marco. Who knows?
Maybe we'll see.
We'll see.
I would like that when Bullet is said and done, eventually in 8 million years, that we've gone to infinity and beyond game. There's all kinds of nuts. So if you want a mechanic, you've got it.
Right.
In the game somewhere.
Note that Bullet is the kind of game wherein you can essentially model other games into Bullet, right? So how Youngja plays billiards essentially is what she plays. She plays billiards, right?
Half my UA initial description just plays Battleship, plays checkers, and what does that mean? I don't know. I'll try to explore that later.
Gosh, imagine if there's a roll and write heroine. Ooh.
Oh yeah, I have plans for that.
Oh man.
Very tentative plans that have not made it onto a component yet.
Right.
But the boards are made the same way as the Millennium boards are, so you can totally do a dry erase thing on your site if you wanted to.
Oh, roll and write heroine. Here we go. Scrabble heroine.
Yeah, Scrabble heroine.
Yeah.
Name a game system can probably support it.
Gosh, Snakes and Ladders heroine would be insane though. Imagine that.
Yeah, no, that's potentially a thing.
Right.
Maybe.
I love seeing devs that get this excited. Don't worry, here's the thing, right? You think that you're all going tell us the new season. It's I want to tell you the new season. We can't.
Our goals as designers is to do the cool thing. My favorite part of doing this job is making a cool card name or a flavor text or whatever, or making a mechanic mesh with a flavor. Designing Ekalu was such a treat because I just went, she cares about 3s, and then that was her design restraints. Is any she does has to be 3s. Her flavor text, her, her mechanics, her actions,
right?
And that was super fun.
Yeah.
To design around.
For people who don't know, a large majority of Ecolo is designed around 3s, and not just mechanically, like Josh was saying. Like, literally, the number of words in her flavor texts are always multiples of 3. The number of lines in her UA is 3. Like, it's the amount of work you put in.
Paragraphs in her UA.
Right.
Yeah.
You committed so hard to the 3s, and I love it. Who's to say your character can't resolve whether or not bullets hit them by playing a full game of Millennium Blades? I mean, look, here's the thing. There's
let me part that curtain really hard here for a sec and say that originally one of those 20 wins in bullet was a Millennium Blades character.
Oh my God.
As a potential promo idea that eventually got axed.
Right.
But they did play Millennium Blades. They had a tableau, whatever that means, and they played Millennium Blades cards, whatever that means.
Right. I'm assuming
bullet.
their patterns were the cards, and it does something with their tableau.
They were actually originally designed for Bullet Exceed. First, they didn't quite make the step over to Bullet the game.
Right.
But if they did make the step over to Bullet the game, they would certainly have Millennium Blades cards that they played into a tableau, and that would do something somewhere in the game, of course.
For people who, I mean, like, look, it's not unheard of, right? Rarity from Battlecon is...
Yeah, we did Rarity in Battlecon, yeah.
Is a Millennium Blades
She plays
character.
Millennium Blades.
And she literally plays Millennium Blades while playing Battlecon. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility. Chess playing heroine would be a cool aesthetic. Hey, who knows? What if they're... Yeah, like, that's a heroine with unique bullets that start on the bottom of their board, and you can move the pieces around like chess. Friggin' I don't know.
Something like that.
Snakes and Ladders heroine, more than one UA board. The solid guest appearance in Bullet when? Forever. No, the Millennium Blades promo.
So insular IPs we haven't really touched on yet. For Bullet, we've had a lot of clamor for that, like Indian's Bullet and stuff. I can say that it's not something we've discussed yet. It's certainly doable, and I would certainly be fine with doing that. But currently, we have other exciting things for Bullet planned that I want to tell you so badly.
Me too.
But I can't yet because we don't have a logo.
Right.
So
not just that.
Once we have a logo,
yeah, dude, I can't wait because I've been clamoring for representation of my culture somewhere. So I can't wait. I just can't wait.
Filipino heroine when?
Hopefully next set.
Let's see. Yeah.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait. Like, when Brad was doing 7th Cross, I was like, need to give me a manananggal, right? God.
Right.
Manananggirl, even. Well, all manananggals are girls, but like, it's... Anyway, well, that's besides the point. I think we've reached over the 1 hour mark. We're at 1 hour, 17 minutes now. Josh and I could talk forever. Like, let me be clear. When Josh and I have meetings, they're kind of like this a lot of the time.
Yeah, we start off doing a work thing, and it kind of just evolves into, like, fan over some future work thing that may be happening, so...
yeah.
But it's all productive, right?
Right.
We tested some Bullet yesterday for a Bullet thing, and we did do the tests twice, and it ended, and then we kind of... It's like got excited about how cool they were.
Right.
For like 10 minutes. We kind of just spent it's going, oh my god, they actually worked, holy crap.
Right. This character's really cool. Oh wait, we didn't even like say one of the things that will thrust things into absolute insanity, right?
What do you mean?
Because
without talking about it.
Okay, how do I say it without talking about it? I guess I should just
if you can't think about it, don't. But
no, it's one of the who's to say your character needs X, right? I didn't even mention one of the things that's a possibility, not to confirm or deny, but like absolutely nothing is sacred, right? So who's to say that you can who's to say that your character needs to take all the options in the game, right? Who's to say that they need to pull bullets from the bag? Who's to say that who's to say they have UAs, right? like
sure.
Heroines don't need UAs.
Anything is possible.
Right. How many hours of shoot-em-up games do you play before you're struck by inspiration for a new heroine? That's the thing, though. Shoot-em-up games are really interesting because they they don't actually inspire you a lot to make heroines in Bullet, because a lot of shoot 'em up games are the quote unquote same. You know what I mean?
Most shmups do like one different thing, right? Like Ikaru does the player mechanic, you know, that kind of became Rie. Great, we've got one weapon, but we're not going to get any more heroines out of
The same
Ikaruga.
game. Right.
Right. Usually.
Right. Well,
But I have played like 20, 30 something shmups, you know, before Bullet and during Bullet's development stuff. So
right.
we have a lot of stuff to draw from.
Yeah.
Mechanically.
It's one of those like Doitsu. What's the one where it's like Galaga but it's not Galaga? It's made by the
There's so
people.
many shmups, I don't know.
They made. So I think Konami made Galaga. No. Was it Galaga? Anyway, I know Konami made a shmup wherein it's just a bunch of like dudes on paper airplanes, and then they turn into Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Okay.
There's something like this, like Koitsu Doitsu or something, whatever. It's just
right.
Also insanity, right?
There's the other thing too is who's to say Bullet has to have shmup characters for heroines, right? It is first and foremost a system, so
Right.
you know we could put in characters from Battlecon, which is a fight, and because Callistar shoots fire, she could be in Bullet, sure.
Yeah.
There's other IPs out there that you might not expect that could work in Bullet, but like anything really can.
Yeah,
so,
for sure. So long as the characters, as long as they're in the same power set. Does that make sense, right? Like,
as long as they, like, there are some requirements, right? They have to be a heroine. They have to be able to fight. Kind of. Not really.
Yes,
actually.
I mean, look, they have to be powerful enough to fit in that universe, right? Like, here's the thing.
I mean, crossovers can be anything.
Right. But my point is that it's like, if your character is, gosh, I don't know, like some anime character who's just a regular schoolgirl and literally is just a regular schoolgirl because she's from, I don't know, like...
Right, like you're not going to see
War.
Chio from Azumanga Daioh, but you might see Kana from, Dragon Maid. Or whatever.
Or like Haruhi. Like Haruhi would probably work because she's... Spoiler.
Probably.
Spoiler.
She'd be pretty weird, but
but she would fit, right? Because she has the power set to be in there. Like that's
she can do a thing essentially.
Right. That's my point, right? You can't just be generic anime girl with no powers because she wouldn't fit into the universe. Now you could be generic anime girl who's a super pro martial artist. Maybe that's a heroine we need to make. By the way, I want that. Put that in my game.
I know, I do too.
Right, powerless girl who uses martial arts. We need that. 9 from BlazBlue would work. Yes, she would. She would.
Sure. Yeah, totally. We could put Noelle in, or Platinum, or all. Sky's the limit.
Sky's absolutely the limit. Oh my gosh. All
but
right.
Speaking of limits, we're
approaching
kind of
our
out
limit.
of time here.
Right, we're approaching our limit. Josh has to go and not be a family man.
I have to go eat food because I'm starving.
Right, and I need to actually do other work. So if nobody else has any pressing questions and instead just has a bunch of questions that are like Bullet character win, we're going to be ending this live cast as usual. It's been me, your host, Marco DeSantos, also known as Mechanic Critic, and with me has been the ever amazing, ever wonderful Overlord, project manager of Level 99 Games himself,
Josh Worthery. Thanks for having me on again. It's always fun.
It's always fun, Josh. It's always fun. If you have any more questions, just put them in the comments section down below, not on the live chat.
Or talk to us on Discord.
Yeah, talk to us on Discord or put them in the comment section. Put them in the comment section down below to help my metrics. Help me on the algorithm, friends. But yeah, put it in the comment section down below if you have more questions. Again, comments, not live chat, because I won't be able to reply to live chat anymore. So go to the comments section, type out your questions, and I'll answer them throughout the day as well. So without much else to say, thanks for watching. Don't forget that we're working behind the scenes on a lot of things, and we're really excited to show them all to you. But you have to wait until we're ready to do them because we don't want to preemptively announce things like we did with 7th Cross. So don't worry about it, and don't worry, we're really excited to them as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Level 99 fans. Thank you, and good night.